Welcome everybody to the Ishtar channel. Welcome, Ishtar. We've got a conversation we'd like to have with you around understanding the difference between skills, learnt skills, skills that we acquire here in the third dimension, and our soul's gifts. So the conversation for the next little while is really helping us to understand what the difference is between the soul's gifts and skills. And from this conversation, we'll also be opening up an understanding of why this is so important for the light worker to differentiate the difference between the two. And if they're still coming to their work as a light worker from that skill-based place of the third dimension, how can we help them move and share towards their soul's gifts as a light worker? Where would you like to start?
Well, I think let's talk about gifts. Let's talk about skills and gifts. You know, when we're talking about skills, we're talking about things we're learning. We learn it through our mind, through our education, perhaps through our training, through our peer group, through our career and through our work. We learn all those sort of skills. And, you know, if we're open to learning and we're curious, we're going to learn a lot of things. We're going to have a lot of knowledge and we're going to know all this stuff. You know, we might read lots of books. We go to lots of training, lots of courses. We've done university, perhaps, TAFE, college, whatever it is, and we've actually trained perhaps in one or two careers, whatever that might be, whether it be in, some sort of alternative career or whether it be conservative, career, whatever it is. And we learn all of these things and our mind is full with them and we're very clever and that's great. We have all these gifts. They're tools we can use, whatever it might be, to build a house, to build a business, to connect with people, to have charisma. We can learn all of those things. But the soul gifts are slightly different because the soul gifts are something that we can't learn. We don't learn that from a book, even though we would love to. We don't learn that from a course. No matter what course you really do, you don't learn your soul gifts because the soul gifts are something that you hold within you in your consciousness, in your being. It is what I like to call the higher wisdom that you have. And it comes from another part of you. It doesn't come from this very human third dimensional personality that you and I are having a chat with. It comes from that higher wisdom of you. So how do you access that? And the thing is that you need to open to receive from a part of you that is able to share those gifts with you, that is coming to you to share those gifts. Now, I believe very firmly that we have a higher self, that we have some sort of contract with, that comes to us in every incarnation to begin to share some of those gifts with us that are going to help us on our soul mission here, whatever that is. And those are the gifts we need to access and we need to integrate. But we can't learn that from a book and we can't learn that from a course, no matter how much you want to. It doesn't happen like that. It's not like going to university or going and training in something, going and learning the piano. It's not a skill set. It's a higher wisdom gift. And it comes from that higher wisdom of yourself. So if you want to access it, you need to learn how to connect with that higher wisdom of you. And that you can learn.
So out of all of the courses that you've channeled over the years, the most recent being the Path of the One Heart, it's so different to all of the others because it really has been channeled for light workers. It's really been channeled with light workers in mind, those that are wanting to come and access that higher wisdom.
Yes.
So could you share a little bit about how Path of the One Heart because we're back to, it is a course, and yet it's a course that's actually going to help you almost walk a path of remembrance and reconnection to the gifts that your soul holds.
Yes, because those gifts are in your being. If they're in your higher consciousness, they don't have to be learned, but they have to be connected to. They have to be, you have to open to them and begin to receive them and integrate them back into your consciousness again, because we've come in here, we've gone into forgetfulness, and we need to remember them. And Path of the One Heart is a mystery school that the masters gave me some years ago, because they said that light workers had become into forgetfulness and were struggling to remember their gifts and their mission. And on the earth right now, we need every light worker that exists here, which is why there are a lot that have come to earth at this time, because all of us are being called to action. You know, it's like, come on, come out and get going. You can't sit anymore in forgetfulness. You actually have to come and start doing your work. And there's a lot of resistance to that because of our forgetfulness. And we keep reading our books and doing courses thinking that that's going to give us our gifts. But the thing is, it doesn't. So it can become very disconcerting for light workers. And of course, light workers are very empathic and they're very sensitive. So often they go into great fear, they go into great resistance to doing their mission work because of that old trauma that they haven't yet resolved. So around their mission. So Path of the One Heart is very focused on light workers, and Lord Kutumi calls light workers Yanitaras. Yanitaras. So that's how he calls light workers, and says that, you know, every light worker that's on this planet at this time has come to serve humanity, to serve the collective, to raise its vibration. And so we're all being called to come and do that. And so anything that's going to help you remember the very truth of your being and the mission that you've come to do, and to give you a skill set, something you can learn to access those gifts that you already hold, is something that's really important for all light workers. So that was the purpose of Path of the One Heart.
So can you just share a little bit more about the 12 Christed scenes that have brought this work to you to reactivate the codes of the Anitara light worker within those that are called? Because within this sacred mystery school, there are 5 very specific disciplines of gifts, soul gifts, that the student is called to. So could you explain a little bit more?
Well, firstly, there are 12 Christed masters that came to do this work, and I channeled from, and they were the masters that worked with the Essenes, you know, over 2,500 years ago. The Essenes being the first light workers on the planet, and they actually helped the Essenes to hone their gifts, to learn the skills to access their gifts, number one. So, and this is what they're offering. And the 5 pathways in the Path of the One Heart are pathways to accessing your gifts. So they are not your gifts, they are the pathways to accessing your gifts. And because each one of us as a light worker holds unique gifts. So those pathways are not your unique gifts, but they're the path, they're actually the tools you need to actually access it. So they give you the skill set, if you will. You can learn the skill set to access your soul gifts. So we have the harmonizers and the caretakers. So one is a pathway of healing, so of creating harmony, and through that harmony within yourself and in the world around you, you will be able to access your gifts more readily, because they're going to flow on that pathway of harmony. The other pathway, which, because there's 2 main branches, is the caretaker. And the caretaker is the caretaker of sacred space, which sort of speaks for itself. It's learning how to be still and to hold sacred space. And in that sacred space, which you hold for yourself and for others, your gifts will come, because you're learning how, the skill set of how to hold that sacred space. And the harmonizers learn the skill set of creating harmonic energy to receive their gifts in. And then there are 3 pathways for which we call the mission work, which is the Magdalene. And so this is a pathway of learning to be the divine channel, so channeling divine wisdom. And of course, the more you open up to channel divine wisdom, the more you're going to receive the gifts that you already hold, and you're going to bring that through. The other pathway is the scribe, and they're learning to channel the Akashic records from their librarian in the halls of a mentee in the Akashic records. So they learn that. So that's bringing through the gifts that they have, and each scribe will hold unique gifts around that they will bring in. And then the last one, of course, is lawmakers who learn to work with the creation principles. And they learn to mentor. Their skill set is to mentor others, but they also learn to channel through their own being, their own intuitive empathy to assist and mentor others to walk their path with more grace. So each pathway gives the Yanitara or the light worker the skill set to actually manifest their gifts. So, and to really bring those gifts in. We have another group of that we work with that is called the Mentors of Love and Wisdom. And many students of the Path of One Heart, you have to have completed a course to join this group. It's a not-for-profit group. Now, it's been running for 9 years, and there's more than 80 people all around the world in that group. And their role is to access their higher self and to actually begin to integrate the gifts of their higher self. And so they're doing that work of actually accessing the gifts of their higher self and bringing those through. And so this is the focus of learning how to do that. How do you access the gifts that you already hold within your being, the gifts of your soul? It's really reaching out to that higher wisdom of yourself. And of course, what gifts are you meant to access and to manifest in this lifetime? So that's a very important understanding, because the soul holds many gifts and holds a lot of wisdom. And where are we meant to focus in this particular incarnation? What is the soul really wanting to manifest as its mission in this incarnation, using its particular gifts? And so it's really being able to touch that consciousness within you that's already there, but you need the skills to be able to do that. So you can learn the skills to do that in the same way, you can learn the skills to play the piano. You can go and learn how to read music and how to play the piano, but does your soul have the gift that brings through the channel of that music that plays the piano? Some people can play the piano and it has no vibration. They know how to do it. They're very skilled at it. They know all the intricacies of playing the piano, but there's no frequency coming through. There's no energy coming from their soul in what they play. And then you'll listen to someone else who has learnt the skills as well. They've both perhaps been to the same music school. And when they play, your soul lights up and their soul lights up, because they're bringing through the gifts of their soul. But they've both learnt the skill set to do it. So this is what we're talking about, is learning the skill set to access your unique gifts, whatever they may be, and bringing them through. And this is what Path of the One Heart does, because on that journey of learning those skill sets, you open up to connect with your higher self in some way. We connect all of the students with an angelic higher self, which is a higher self that's very focused on service, on serving the light. And so, which is what Yanitaras or light workers are here to do. They're here to serve. And they get very lost in their difference. I'm very different to the rest of the world. I'm not normal. I'm all these things. And when they stay focused on that and they get caught up in that old trap, they forget why they're here. And they are here to be different. If you're a light worker, you're here to be different. You're here to access your unique gifts. You're here to share them in loving service. You're not here to be like everybody else. You didn't come for that purpose. You didn't come to have the same experience as your neighbor. You came to share your gifts, and you can't share your gifts unless you access them and bring them here. And so that's the difference between a skill set and soul gifts.
And do you find that with our soul gifts, there is a refining of them, or a deepening or an expanding of them from one incarnation to another? I mean, I ask because I remember when I came into Path of the One Heart and I was placed into the scribes, and I chuckled to myself because, 10 years prior, when I did my first Sacred Mystery School, I was put into, I don't think they called them scribes then, or seers, I think they were called, but doing the exact same thing, reading the Akashic records. And I just, back then, I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to I was everything that you just spoke to, too fearful to open up to that gift. And then the second mystery school I did, I was put into the same group again. And then I come to Path of the One Heart, and, and there I am again. And I'm like, it's a part of me that's sort of sitting there going, okay, there's got to be something to this whole scribe business, Akashic record reading. Am I ready to actually come and look at what that is for me? And so is that an example of a soul gift that the soul has been learning through many incarnations and is being asked to continue its mastery in that gift? Or can a soul open in an incarnation to a gift for the first time that it's
I'm going to
holding
answer.
its beat?
Yeah, I'm going to answer yes, definitely. To that, you can certainly open to not necessarily new gifts, but a different application to your gifts, because when you're doing as a scribe, while I know you were talking about being called a seer, which is actually someone using their third eye, for the Path of the One Heart, we see scribes as channels. They're actually being taught the skill set of how to go in and receive through channel from the librarian. They're not receiving through their third eye, they're receiving through the librarian. So they're receiving through a higher consciousness of themselves, because your librarian is a higher self of you. So I'm going to be cheeky and say maybe the skill set you learned in the Path of the One Heart was able to bring you to these gifts, because you were given a skill set, a pathway that actually showed you how to do it more clearly. I'm a bit cheeky with that one, but there's no judgment in anything else. But all I'm saying is that you were given the pathway or the training that really brought you to how to channel those gifts. And as you open up using that skill set, it's like the same thing I was talking about the piano. You've got to practice. When you're taught how to play the piano and the music and all of that, you've got to sit and practice. The more you practice, the more you do it, the more if you've got a lot of gifts in that area, it's going to come through, isn't it? And suddenly, there'll be this amazing frequency coming through. So, and if that's where your gifts come through, but if you're, given the right training, if that's where your gifts are to come through, they will come through. And of course, it's how are your gifts coming through? Your gifts are coming through the harmonic, because you're a harmonizer. I know that because I know what Jo is, so I'm saying this. So she's been trained to bring in the harmony, to bring in the energy first. I mean, you were brought into the foundational energy of that before you go and start playing with your librarian in the halls of Amenti. And it's not simply about reading Akashic records, as you know. So it's much more about how you help clients and people to access old trauma and memories that they really need to do something about. And so you know, once again, bringing harmony back to the consciousness of soul, your soul, as well as others. And so you're going to use your gifts. Now, every scribe that we've trained is going to work with that skill set, that initial training, but each one of you are going to do it in your own way through the gifts that you already hold through your soul, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because if I go and do a scribe session with each one of you that have been trained, I'm going to get a different session. It's going to be the same training, the same skill sets that you've learned, same knowledge that you've learned, but the energy is going to be different with each one of you because each one of you have got different soul gifts.
Yeah.
And they're going to touch me. Each one of you will touch me in a different way through your soul.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And, you know, I also witness and have done for a while, but it seems like where we are right now, planetaratively or collectively rather, you know, the soul body, as you teach us, anchors at around the age of 30. And
it may or it may not.
Or it may or may not. We have to make that choice. We have to be a conscious choice.
Yeah.
But to that point, I'm noticing more and more people coming at a crossroads and coming at a career crossroads often at that age where it becomes this, oh, do I really want to carry on doing what I'm doing for the next 20-30 years, you know, or as I hear all the time, you know, is this really what I'm here for? Is this it? Is this what I've really come to do? It just, something feels off, just doesn't feel fully aligned. And so it's that kind of feeling within us that is potentially asking us to go beyond our skill set that we might be very comfortable in the day-to-day job that we're doing, and to perhaps explore more about what our soul's gifts are that can come and manifest themselves and, as you say, be of service in some way through opening.
Yeah, and understanding too, as every astrologer will tell you, between the ages of 28 to 32, you go through something which is called a Saturn return astrologically. And so a lot of people will have these questions come up for them. And also it's a time where you choose to connect with your soul or whether you don't, you know. And that's another thing. Your soul will come to you during that period and say, well, do you want to connect? You know, it's there. Would you like to open to this connection? And often we'll have people who will totally embrace that connection, and others who will sort of go, oh, no, you know, they're doing this, maybe not, maybe, oh, no, I won't. And so those who do will then have a deep connection to their soul and a deep connection, and that will lead them into other pathways to discover more of what their soul has come to share with them. Others go through a really dark night of the soul here because they've got maybe a big separation with their soul. So they have a huge dark night of the soul during that period of time, for all sorts of reasons. And, you know, and then the soul can come back to them another time and ask them, you know, do you want to connect? But the thing is, it is that decision. It's a choice. Once again, we were given free will on this planet for a reason, and the soul gives you a choice. Then do you want to connect, or do you want to continue living through the ego here? And there's nothing wrong with that. We can continue through that way, or we can continue through the guidance and the connection with our soul so that we can actually then receive our gifts. Now, for a lot of people, they're not here to manifest a soul mission, but Yanitaras or light workers are definitely here to manifest a soul mission. And there are a lot more of them here than what we know or what we think. And a lot of them have become lost because they've come, but because they've gone into duality and the density of this world. It's very difficult for them to remember and to break out. It's like being encased in an egg, you know, the chicken has to hatch, you know, or the little bird has to hatch. and you know, they can break the shell, but they can't get through. You know, it's a little bit like that, but they really need to hatch. And that's one of the reasons why the masters wanted us to bring Path of the One Heart through, to help light workers hatch, basically.
You mentioned before the Saturn return. Is there another? Is there a second
Yeah,
Saturn
there's
return
two.
that happens
Yeah,
a little
and
later?
at your, when you're 60, 58 to 60, usually 58 to 60. Yeah. It's called midlife crisis.
Wow. And so, you know, it's almost like, you know, a second calling, like the soul going, okay, last chance.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
it.
last
Yeah.
orders, so to
Yeah,
speak.
last orders. Yeah.
You know, and again, whether or not we step into opening to more of that in that mature phase of our life.
But the soul can come to us at any time. I mean, they're the times when often, you know, astrologically it's open for us, but the soul can come at any time and talk to us. And particularly, it doesn't usually come before 30, only because in our 20s, we're really here to experience physicality. Even a light worker is here to experience physicality, and to have that experience. You know, it's not everyone, but basically in those years, it's really important to experience physicality on the planet, you know, to really see that I'm a physical being, you know, go and do physical things, and see how you manifest yourself in the world around you, with others, with Mother Earth, with all of those things. And that's great. But when you start to get to 26, 27, then your soul's going to start calling. And that's why it's often called the dark night of the soul, because you're in great resistance. Yeah, or you have this huge separation with the soul. So you're going through that dark night of the soul because you're going through all the consciousness that created that separation in the first place. You know, and for light workers, it's going to be 100 times stronger. Just to let you all know.
Well, I was going to say, if you know, if you're a light worker listening, and you know, you are feeling that call and you're feeling resonant to what's been spoken about here, then again, we will encourage you to click on a link to learn more about Path of the One Heart and how it can support you as a light worker to walk your soul's path. So thank you, Ishtar. I love that conversation. I think it's really fascinating for us to be able to really appreciate what the earth plane offers us in terms of our skills and honing our skills, but then, you know, what more is offered to us when we open to the soul and allowing the wisdom and the presence of the soul to be here with us in the physical, and to offer more of our higher consciousness through this plane. So thank you for explaining that. Beautiful.
You're welcome, Jo. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Blessings to everyone. Blessings.
And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.